Hello and welcome to this Fasten of Yarnalong event. Did you ever wonder what designers chat about when they meet? Well, today you're going to find out. For this designer conversations, we are lucky to have with us Andrea from YarnAndy. We have Jenn from Synaptic Stitches and Marna from a Caitín Beag. I had to practice that because it's Irish. Please introduce yourself in a little short um, time. Andrea, let's start with you.
Okay, so hi everyone. I am Andrea. I am a Romanian living in Germany, and I design crochet and Tunisian crochet mostly, and a bit of knitting on the side because I like all the crafts. And I started doing this as a child, but I mainly learned how to crochet on I don't know, more advanced level about 10 years ago. And then later on, I started designing as well. And knitting, I also learned as a child from my mom. And we used to use unraveled yarn from sweaters and stuff that we could find in thrift stores. So that's where I started. And this will be relevant later on in the discussion. And
Good.
after coming to Germany, I started buying yarn and creating designs from it.
Okay. Thank you for your introduction. Marna, let's hear about you.
Hi, I'm Marna. I design things with mostly cats on them. That happened completely by accident. I did not mean to be a knitwear designer or cover everything in cats. It just evolved that way. I'm from Ireland, but I live in England and recently moved to the seaside. So as a couple of months ago, I live 5 minutes walk from the sea and it's amazing. I have two nice little black cats who came to live with me just over 2 weeks ago. And they're causing absolute havoc, and I love them.
We might even see them featured in the video if we're lucky.
I can go and scoop one for us later if they don't introduce themselves.
Thank you for telling a little something about yourself. We're all jealous of living on the seaside now.
It's so good.
Jenn, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Jenn Lampin. I have lived all around the US. Right now, I'm in Western Kentucky, not where I ever thought I would end up, but it's where my husband's job took us. So I'm here for now. And I learned to knit as a kid, but put it down, got back into it in grad school, and just fell in love and have not, put knitting down for a minute ever since. And I similarly didn't have any plan that brioche knitting was going to be my one and only thing. It just sort of happened that way, and I love it, and I love trying to convince other knitters that no matter what your interest is, whether it's brioche or anything else, to just go for it and be fearless and try whatever inspires you, because I think we do way too much telling each other that certain things are too hard. And I also have two cats, and someone was just yowling to come up.
Oh, you lovely Gabby. We just missed it because I think your screen went away just when you showed the cat. So let me spotlight you so you can show the cat again. Oh, she's really taking the camera moment.
Yeah, that's Luna.
Luna, I love you so much.
Awesome. Well, it's not often that designers have the opportunity to get together with their peers to discuss their craft. So we decided to open the floor to them, and I invited them to have a conversation about a topic. I introduced them to the topic yesterday, so they didn't have a lot of preparation time. But luckily, they went with it, but because they already told something about it in their introduction. I asked them why design with a niche or why design very eclectic. And I did that because both Marna and Jenn design with a niche. Jenn focuses on brioche, as she already mentioned, and Marna designs with cats in her projects. Whilst Andrea is very eclectic, she designs for all three crafts, crochet, knitting, and Tunisian crochet, and she does a whole wide, broad spectrum of things she designs, from toys to garments and everything in between. So I wanted to ask you, why or how did it happen that it became a niche? Or why did it happen that you design so eclectic? And what are the advantages and disadvantages? So please share your thoughts on that with each other. Who wants to go?
Can we start with Marna? I want to know more about the cats.
We can start with me. So I didn't set out to design things with cats on in a professional way. I just really liked putting cats on things. So I started designing sort of by accident, as in I would knit myself a pair of socks with some cats on, or a cardigan with some cats on, and put it on Instagram. And then Instagram said, hey, I need this too. So I figured out how to write it in a pattern so that everybody could knit it up for themselves. And again, the first couple of times I was like, oh, these two patterns happen to have cats on. And then everything else I thought of was just cat related.
So is it mostly intarsia or?
There's some, no, I will do salad of all the techniques. So there's intarsia, there's stranded color work, there's lace. I've just released a top with little toe bean shaped lace pattern throughout it. So anywhere I can sneak a cat reference in, I do. The thing that has sort of kept me at it, the thing I absolutely love about it, is people get my patterns and they knit them, and then they send me pictures of them with their cats posed. So as well as being like, hey, here's my knitwear with cats, like this sweater that I'm wearing comes with a fill in your own chart. So you can knit your actual cats on your sweater.
Nice.
Rather than it just being my generic old black cat. And I love the sort of celebration of everyone's individual, perfectly perfect best cat in the world, little cats throughout that. So I think that's the thing that's sort of kept it going for me, if that makes sense. And the thing that gives me most inspiration is figuring out, or sort of a journey into meeting more cats and figuring out how we can all just get together and say how good our cats are. Like that's half my life now, is admiring people's cats.
Do you also make cat sweaters and stuff, like designs for cats to wear, or mostly
no,
for humans?
because I've never had a cat who would have allowed me to do that. Yeah. I like having skin. One thing I did do, because I do UK-based yarn shows, I do a couple a year where I sell patterns and cat-related accessories and stuff. I did a thing called the Cat Gallery, where I bought one of those tiny little photo printers and asked people to fill out a form with a picture of their cat and printed it straight out and then and stuck it on the wall. So by the end of the weekend, I had like 100, 200 cat portraits, and people could just come and admire everybody's cats. Slightly a victim of its own success because I had more submissions than I had time or paper to print them all. It was great.
That's an excellent marketing technique. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's how I ended up cat niche, but I would like to hear about your Jenn's niche and your everything, Andrea.
Yeah, Jenn, you said you do brioche?
I do. Which, yeah, as I said, like I didn't ever I have a clear memory of like saying that I would never be a designer, and sitting around with my knitting group and going, there's so many designs out there that I want to knit. I don't ever need to jump into this. Um, yeah, now here we are. Um, so that failed, and um, but yeah, in 2019, I was in a job that I really hated and was really unhappy, and ended up quitting my job right about this time of year, just very end of November 2019. And at about the same time, my friend, one of my best friends, gave me a pattern and some yarn as a present. And it was a hat pattern that Nancy Marchant had published in Vogue Knitting back in 2011, and it used brioche and cables. And these were like my two favorite techniques. I'm somebody who gets bored very easily with my knitting. So I always want to be learning something. I always want to be doing something like intricate and challenging and like keeping my brain stimulated. And so the idea that I could take my two favorite techniques and put them together into one skill was like mind blowing and really exciting to me. And after I knit this hat, I looked online and I could not find anything else that was published where using um, this same technique. I have subsequently found out that she did use it once more in a pattern that was only released in a book, but like never really did a whole lot and explored what could be done with the technique. And my brain just started going and went, oh, this is a hole that I can fill. And so I sort of had this thought of like, okay, I'll do like two or three. Like I had this starting point, and I ended up doing a shawl, a sweater, and a hat that were all off of this same idea, pretty early on. And I had the idea that I was going to do those, and then like maybe I'd explore something else. But as I did those, I came up with more ideas and more ideas, and now we're 5 years later, and I'm still only designing in brioche. So it's become my thing, even if it wasn't planned.
Nice.
Oh.
So it just exploded from one idea, and you're still
Mm-hmm.
exploring this. Well, I do kind of the same thing, as in I get an idea and then I explore it, like an explosion. You can imagine like a flower blooming and all the different petals, but then I have many, many of them. That's why it appears to be so random, but when you take them all together, you can find common ground and you can make groups with them. How many years have you been designing with brioche and Marna with cats? I mean, you said 5 years.
Yeah, for me, it's been about 5 years.
6. And Marna?
I'm counting back. This is a hard question because time passes on. About
Approximately.
7 or 8 years.
Okay.
How did that happen?
Yeah. So I started designing right after I learned a few, I followed a few patterns, and I didn't know much about patterns when I started. We didn't have patterns. When I grew up, we had some yarn from unraveled projects, as I mentioned earlier, from sweaters and other things you could find in secondhand shops. And then we had mostly examples from other people. One of my professors at university said that she saw someone on the street once and looked at their sweater and just remembered the pattern and then went home and made it. So this is kind of a cultural thing where I grew up. We don't have patterns, we just figure things out. So that was how I started, and I made things that were relevant to me, like what I needed and what I wanted, and what the yarn wanted to become, because you can't control what you find. For example, if you go to a shop and you find something made of cotton, then maybe it's a very thin cotton. You have to make a project with that. And that's how it's been for me ever since. I find yarn well, lately not so much, but over the past decade, I find some yarn and then I design something that makes it look nice. Do you start from the
designs a
yarn?
reaction to the material rather than you
Yeah.
get design in your head and you go out looking for the right yarn?
Yeah. You have access to a yarn shop to go and just buy the things needed to make your idea happen, or same for Jen?
I tend to work with a lot of farmers and dyers and yarn companies, and so often I'm like have a pool of um, ideas of patterns that I want to create, and I have somebody who I want to work with and create with their yarn, and I have to sit there and go, okay, which of your yarns will match with which of my design ideas?
I tend to, I think I do both ways. I like giving myself a limited amount of yarn and saying, what can I make out of this? Like I've got a series of shawl patterns that don't have cats on, weird shawl patterns, that I make using the same sort of single skein of 4-ply and single skein of lace weight, because I want to see how many things I can do with that. It's like, what else can I make new using the same combination of two materials? But for things like sweaters, I do a little bit of dyeing as well. So quite often I will dye the perfect gradient that I want if I'm not able to find it out there. Or I will, like with this sweater, I've knit it in 2 versions using 2 very different feeling DK yarn. So I'll bring both of those to yarn shows and people are like, these 2 completely different sweaters. No, it's the same pattern, just this is in a really woolly yarn, this is in a really drapey yarn. So I also like designing things that are quite yarn agnostic so that it doesn't require this one expensive yarn only available in this country. You should be able to substitute in most yarns of the same weight. And you might get something that's not identical, but the beauty of knitting is none of our things are identical.
Yeah, same. Except
Andrea,
the going to the fairs. Yeah.
so Andrea, if you started from a mindset of like not knitting from patterns and not or crocheting or doing Tunisian, whatever, like not crafting from a pattern, what inspired you then to start writing your designs down and making patterns for other people to use?
To be honest, I have no idea. Well, first I learned from a video. Well, the first time I learned, I did bead crochet. Then I learned how to do regular crochet from a video. Then I learned how to read charts, and I love charts. So I started drawing my own charts. And I then I had a blog back then, and I would share tutorials for other things. So I decided to start sharing tutorials, or in this case, patterns for the crochet projects that I was making. And then in 2020, I quit my job, as in the project I was working on ended, and I didn't want to continue. So I started making this my full-time job and selling patterns. Until 2020, I was just sharing free patterns. Yeah. Did you start selling directly?
Yeah, I think I'm very curious as to, did you go out and read patterns before you started writing them?
Well, yeah, you have to.
How much of how you put patterns together is sort of intuitive, this is the way I would approach things?
Well,
How much is
yeah,
this
you have
the
to
way I see other
learn.
people have approached things?
Yeah, you do have to learn how others write to
Yeah.
be able to write. But I didn't take a pattern and look at it and write my own. I took the principles, like what does it have to include, like yarn requirements, gauge, and all that stuff that you also have on the database website. And yeah, I did testing, and I learned from testers that this is missing. Okay, I will add it. And then the list grew of all the things that should be in a pattern. And yeah, I have it here and I wrote it up.
Before I did this, I used to be a programmer.
Uh-huh.
So I think I write patterns more like computer programs, because a knitting pattern is very like a computer program. It is do this thing with these parameters until this happens, then do this.
Yeah, like an algorithm, but
Yeah,
for
so I think
humans.
I have a probably more than averagely programmatic way of writing a pattern.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
easy to follow.
I think there are different styles of pattern writing, and some people prefer to knit from one style and some people prefer to knit from another.
To be honest, I think all the knit patterns that I've read so far are pretty consistent and pretty similar in construction. I mean, in the way they are laid out and the content itself. The crochet patterns I've seen are all over the place. But yeah, I often recommend people that they follow at least a minimum structure. That
Yeah.
Yeah. Jen, did you have a lot of examples to start from?
So I had been knitting off of other people's patterns pretty consistently for 5 years before I started trying to do anything of my own. And I guess I knit a few things probably in like the year before I started designing for, writing patterns that I had done just one off. Like I want to make a sweater for myself that, didn't have a pattern. So I just sort of created stuff that way for a little while. And then went into actually writing patterns. So I did have some framework, but I still think even, I haven't been designing that long, but I now go back and look at the things that I wrote 5 years ago. And I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I could change this. My style has changed a lot with practice.
Yeah,
Yeah, and with feedback.
someday I'm going to go back and edit the old ones to be more consistent.
Unless they're bestsellers, just let them be and do your thing, because you will always find something new to improve. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, if they still make a lot of sales and people come back to them, then yeah, it's worth it. But if not, just
Thank you, designers, for having such a lively conversation. I'm going to put one question in because we were talking why designing niche or why designing eclectic, and you've talked a lot about your design process and your designs. But I'm curious, what did you discover about your audience, about the makers who buy your patterns and make your patterns? Do they appreciate your niche? Do they come back, or do they appreciate that you have a very broad portfolio in the case of Andrea? And do they come back because they can find, well, anything they want to make? What's your experience in that?
I mean, mine is that they really like cats too. I found my people.
And that is an advantage. You discover they come back for it. They aren't asking for patterns with dogs.
No, people do occasionally ask for patterns with dogs, but there's occasional patterns I sneak a secret dog chart in. If I can fit a dog in and I've got space to print a secret dog chart, I'll slip it. My partner prefers dogs, so I'll make him a dog thing occasionally as well.
that's so sweet. So you have a whole world to explore beyond cats.
Yeah, there's so much to explore in cats though as well.
Jen, do you want to answer?
Sure. I think that in some ways I have sort of put myself into a very small niche, right? Like I do something advanced, I do something challenging, and not everybody is comfortable with that. So I spend a lot of time trying to like help people get over their fears, get out of their own, heads and be willing to try things. Things including my patterns. But I feel like once I find, the people who do want to jump in, they love it and they come back again and again and again. And um, it's, I've had this thought of like, what I love designing and what my brain really like wants to chew on is like the really intricate stuff and the always looking at, okay, I've done, is there a new way to do a cable? Can I cable in double brioche? Can I combine intarsia with brioche? Can I combine stranded knitting with brioche? Can I find more ways to put things together and always be teaching my knitter something new because I'm teaching myself something new? And that's like what I sort of lean towards, but then part of me's gone, okay, right, but this is also a business and you need to like be able to help people like progress into being able to do that. And so I've published a few pieces that I've sort of designed as like building blocks to help you get to where, learn the skills to be more comfortable to do that. And none of those pieces sell. So I found that like my audience just wants me to like I found the people who love the crazy side of my brain and they just want me to go with it. And so occasionally I'll do a more simple piece, but like mostly at this point, I just lean into the intricacy because that does bring the people back. Like I realize I'll never have like the reach of some of the designers that do things that are more beginner accessible, but I'm okay with that.
For the people who are in your niche, they're really, really there for it. So
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I actually have a bit of this because I design a lot of intricate lace in Tunisian crochet where there is no one else doing this. Just like you said, when you discovered brioche with cables and no one else was publishing, this is the same with me with Tunisian crochet. But yeah, so there are a few people who always come back to those and who want to try them all. And yeah, that's awesome. And I also need to live off of this. So I publish the simpler things as well. And those are for just people who come and go. It's not a problem. Some of those are more interested, and then we started conversation, and I recommend things to try to increase the skills, and to then they can try the more advanced stuff. So that's great as well. But casting a wide net and then bringing it the few who are really interested in the thing, that's yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, designers, for answering the questions, having this conversation. We have a little bit of time left, not much. So I'm asking the audience if they have any questions and if they want to type them in the chat. In the meantime, Andrea, would you like to show us some Tunisian crochet lace shawl? If you have it in that beautiful rack behind you. We've seen a design from Jenn. She's wearing a beautiful sweater. We've seen the design from Marna, also a sweater. So I thought, let's ask you. I'm going to spotlight you so you don't have to talk.
Okay, yeah, I should talk. This is knit, but I have a Tunisian crochet version that I did first. So this is the knit version of that, and it doesn't have a pattern yet. It will happen. This is the one that I'm most proud of for now. This is a Ruby Phoenix capelet. So you can see, not very well. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a big, big capelet. It's like a little Red Riding Hood thing.
It's beautiful.
And after making this, I decided to try a cardigan. So this is the cardigan with a similar type of lace. And instead of having just a round piece, you also have sleeves.
And this is Tunisian, right, Andrea?
Yes. You can see the return pass in each eyelet.
Thank you.
You can have a lot of fun with lace because you don't have you can skip stitches, so you don't always have to work 2, 3 together. You can do whatever you want because it's crochet.
So there didn't pop any questions up from the audience. Oh, wait, I'm saying that, then there's popping one up. Well, that's a great question, B, to answer to end this conversation. B asks, how can makers best support you as designers?
Okay, can I answer from my perspective? Talk about the things that you like to make from those designers and share your projects wherever you share them out in the world, in your knitting or crochet group, online, if you post online. Just share the love that you have for the things that you made based on the designer's work and mention the designer. I think that's the most natural way of supporting someone without spending any money. And if they have a website, visit the website, see what they have there as learning tools, or if they have events, participate in events or talk about the events.
Jenn and Marna, anything to add?
I would add the thing that really tell me how much you enjoyed making something that I designed, because there is nothing better than somebody sending you a picture of something finished and going, I had a blast making this. I swore about you a little bit in this section, but otherwise it was amazing. Like that will get me smiling for the next week.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. Yeah, as much if you have bought a pattern and made the thing, yeah, share it, shout it from the rooftops if you love it. Don't shout it from the rooftops if there's something that's wrong. Just contact the designer because that hurts when that happens. Um, but yeah, and even if there's something that like it's just not on your agenda or you don't have the time, you don't have the money to make it right now. If there's something you love, you know, share that on your whatever platforms, talk about the things that, you're interested in, or just even just likes and comments on social media, little basic things that help other people see what we're creating. Um, Even if you don't have, can't make it right then, just keep sharing what we're doing or putting things out there so that other people are able to see what we're doing too.
Okay, thank you. Well, the Fasten of Yarnalong lends itself really well for sharing. There are the makers are making a lot of projects from you participating designers. Thank you so much again for joining this conversation. Thank you, participants, for coming out. We hope you all enjoyed this video panel. Check out the Fasten of Yarnalong schedule on our website because we have more panels planned, more activities, and a lot of options to share from our participating designers. Josiane, my co-host, will post the links to each of these designers in the chat. So if you want to check out those websites, go ahead. And I wish you all a good rest of your day.